Well, let me give some background information as the situation will be hard to understand without it. 7 years ago, I got married to the girl of my dreams, Denise, fake name. We had been dating for 2 years before that, and it was like a dream come true. That changed after our marriage. After our marriage, she constantly started feeling down and out of it, and eventually I got her to go to a doctor who sent her to a therapist, and from there we found out she had depression to do with things from her past that she was trying to forget. I decided to be as supportive as I could be. I took care of most of the housework, despite working 40 hours a week, and told her to just get herself in order, and if she needed to talk to me, I would be there for her. That was 6.5 years ago. Before she left, she was still depressed. She basically only lays in bed and complains. She does nothing. We had no intimacy, no sex, no cuddles, no going out. My entire day was filled with work and housework. Day in and day out, I worked my ass off, came home to a mess of a house and started cleaning up, starting dinner and so forth. At the end of the day, I was exhausted, and all I could expect was for Denise to unload more of her trouble on me and complain about herself, me, and everything around her. I could not even hang out with my buddies to get away from it all, as she would relentlessly call me saying she was scared and everything, so I also had no social life, not that I had time for it anyway. But despite it all, I pushed through, hoping that sooner or later she would break out of it and we could have a proper life together, as I loved her, and as they say, for better and worse, and this was quite clearly worse, possibly the worst it would ever be. 4 months ago she got a new therapist, and 3 months ago the therapist suggested she needed time away from me as her depression started when we married, so I may be the cause of it. The moment she told me, I was crushed. I started doubting myself, blaming myself, worrying, but beneath it all, this creeping sense of having done everything for her, having sacrificed years of my life as a cash cow and a servant for her to lay in bed, and this is my thanks. It is my fault now? But I rejected that feeling, trying to talk through it. But she decided to leave and stay with her mother, saying she needed time away from me and that I may be the cause of her depression and so forth. Honestly, the entire argument is a blur in my head. I spent the next month when she moved out calling her family, begging and humiliating myself just to get her back, apologizing for everything I may have done wrong. Honestly, I was close to ending it all, as I was so hopeless at that point. But that month passed, and as it passed, I couldn't help but feel relieved. I came home and it was quiet. I could indulge in my hobbies, which I had not done in years. The place was not a mess every time I came home. I could relax in 2 months, and I even realized I could hang out with my buddies again, grabbing a beer, enjoying life, and slowly I started to realize that I had been miserable this entire time. Slowly that turned into more and more realizations before I realized I honestly did not love her anymore. I felt like my youth was wasting away. I could do much, much better than this. I felt like I was a caretaker of a handicapped old lady. Hell, I still looked good, and as I went out I started once again gaining back my self-confidence. Women would flirt with me. I felt wanted even though I never did flirt back. After all these realizations, I suddenly got a call from my wife, saying she made a huge mistake. She was sobbing her eyes out, and how she was an idiot taking the therapist's words as fact, and how much she loved me. For a moment I wanted to say yes, please come back. But I couldn't. I just blurted it out and said to her she had left me and I was done with this relationship. I told her I would get divorce papers, and I told her I had wasted enough time as it was, and this final action of hers was the nail in the coffin. After that I just dropped the phone, started crying for a bit before turning in and feeling liberated. The issue now is that everyone in my family is telling me I am making a mistake. I should take her back. I owe it to her to try and make it work. Marriage is not always fun, etc. The thing is, I never had fun in this marriage. I can't remember the last time I had fun and wasn't miserable. We are both young and fit, and we never even go out. Hell, the last time we had sex is over a year ago. All I am to her is a fucking servant, as it seems, and I rather live along than spend 1 more hour taking care of her. But on the other end, I doubt myself. Am I really dumping someone that is depressed? I feel horrible about it. I feel like a failure. I just need advice. Edit. Wow. I stepped away from my phone for a while and returned to a ton of comments. Thank you all so much. I will try to read them all. Edit 2. While I have a hard time defending my wife right now, let me clarify something that is popping up in some comments. I know for a fact that she did not sleep around with anyone while we were separated. My 30M ex, M30F, and I dated in college for almost 3 years. We broke up because I caught her cheating on me red-handed with a guy in our apartment. I found out she had been cheating on me for at least 6 months. It wasn't entirely unexpected. In that time I did see changes in her. I did suspect cheating in the back of my mind, but I wanted it to be not true bad enough to push those hunches away, I guess. I desperately tried talking with her about us, but she always said it was something else bothering her, stress getting to her, etc., and she talked me out of worrying. I also found out later that said guy introduced her to some hard substances and she eventually began using. She dropped out of school. Found out from a mutual friend that it was because her parents cut her off monetarily and she shacked up with a guy she cheated on me with. I was completely NC with her since the breakup. I was hurt a lot emotionally by everything and ended up struggling through some pretty deep depression and self-doubt. Was honestly the lowest point I've been at. A lot of that stemming from the fact that I was very much in love with M. Was even at the point where I was considering proposing after we graduated prior to everything happening and was saving up for a ring. Looking back, it was just a lot of me looking through rose-tinted glasses. Cut to now. I am happily married. My wife, A, 28F, is amazing. Absolutely the best thing that has ever happened to me. We've been together for 5 years, married 1.5. She's been an incredibly supportive partner, and has helped me combat my self-doubt a lot. Still battle with it sometimes, but I'm in a much better place now compared to 9 years ago. We're also expecting our first child. I've never been happier in my life. Well, about 2 months ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize and they left a message. It was M. The message was essentially her asking me to give her a call so we could talk. Apparently, she got my number off of one of our mutual friends, T. I immediately talked to T. I was very angry at first because T knew exactly what I had been through with that breakup, and she gave M my number no question without even asking me or anything. I found out from T that M had been through rehab for her substance abuse, she had moved back closer to our area, she was trying to mend fences, and that I should hear her out. With that in mind, I decided to give M a call back. I made up my mind before talking to her that I really didn't want any kind of prolonged contact with her, but I figured if talking to me was somehow part of her recovery process, then I would try and at least talk to her. I also told my wife about everything that's going on. A and I had a long talk about it and went over how we both felt about the situation. I told my wife I think I should at least call M, but really didn't want anything more than that, as I wanted to focus on her and our growing family. A was totally understanding. M and I talked on the phone for a while. She apologized for everything. The cheating, the lies, all of the above. I accepted her apology and said I was glad she was doing better, because I genuinely am. We talked about our lives up to that point a bit. I didn't tell her everything, but she does know I'm married. Toward the end of the conversation, she said she'd eventually like to be friends again and asked if I wanted to meet up for coffee or something. I politely declined, and said that I'm glad she's on the way to healing, but I don't think I want any kind of friendship or relationship with her. We said our goodbyes and hung up. In the time since then, M has not contacted me, but I've gotten messages and calls from T as well as other people both M and I know, saying that it's been so long, and that I should try and rebuild some kind of friendship with my ex. I just don't think I want that. I just want to focus on my family, and not dredge anything else up from the past. I've tried to express that to anyone who's talked to me about the situation. Some understand my position, some still persist. I'm honestly just thinking about going full NC and blocking people who keep trying to push myself and M together. Any advice on how I could proceed otherwise? Or if that is the right choice? Should I give her a chance to be back in my life in some capacity? Edit. Thank you all for your advice and thoughts. I didn't expect all of these responses, but I took time this morning to read through them all. After reading them, as well as talking with my wife about it again, I have decided that I need to stick to my guns and that my original instincts were correct. My plan moving forward is to try and establish clear boundaries one final time with T and anyone else who needs them, and explain one final time exactly why I do not want M in my life. And I just need to cut out anyone who does not respect that. Again, thank you all for taking time to read and respond to my post. I really appreciate it. Hi all. To provide a little context on this, I've met my ex-wife when I was about 25 and fell in love with her after a couple of dates. She had that thing that made me fall in love. The first 2 years of our relationship were quite awesome, and I have a lot of happy memories from that time. After a while, we started to have arguments and we didn't quite really know how to approach it, so we started to drift apart. I had a business and TBH I struggled with it. I wasn't quite ready to make it work properly and it consumed a lot of my time. She found the gym to be her go-to place and she found some girls there that influenced her in a way that contradicts with my way of being. I'm a fit but skinny guy. She started putting pressure on me to try to get bigger and go to the gym with her. I tried, but having the business on my mind didn't really make me feel comfortable spending time there with her and her friends. Also, while I have an apartment in the center of my city, she put a lot of pressure to get a house, a thing that I find hard, since I hate commuting to work. This apartment is in close proximity to everything and I've worked my ass off and got help from my parents to full pay for it and be debt-free by the age of 25. Fast forward 2 more years or so, last September, she says she wants a divorce and that she is moving out. And I took it as a man and wanted for her to be happy. Love by force is impossible. She moved, having her way and all, but we kept in contact and I've tried to show her that I can change, make more money and be generally more responsible. During this time she said it was too little too late. In the beginning of April I said stop and stopped my contact with her. 2 days ago, she reaches out and says that she needs help with some money and I had a small amount to give her after some of her things remained in my possession. A thing which I consider fair, and I would give it back to her. We met and talked for about 5 hours and in this time she gave me the impression that she wants to tell me something more. And she started talking about her growing up and that she doesn't want to spend time finding another man and she believes that we could have made it work. At the same time she told me that she met some men and it was nice to chat with them but no sexual stuff. During the past 2 years, she has changed quite a lot. She reads books, she takes her job more seriously but she has some demands that I don't know if I can deliver. Don't get me wrong, she is good looking, quite smart and she could easily find a man that earns more than me or looks better than me, but some of her demands are quite ridiculous. I still have feelings for her and I think some of her intentions are true, but I'm really reserved about a possible future together. Sorry for the long story, I just felt I needed for some advice from total strangers, as I cannot talk with friends because they know me and are like, forget her, she is not good enough for you. How should I approach this?